It's Halloween, and a nightmare is beginning.
That's when the hair on the back of your neck stands up.
The mystery deepens when police discover a second victim.
Over here!
It's getting uglier by the minute.
Lieutenant Joe Kenda finds himself face to face with pure evil.
He's essentially torturing these people before the kill, like cats playing with mice before they eat them.
When someone says, I'm going to kill you, it'd be in your interest to believe it. When someone feels threatened, emotions become unpredictable. How threatened are they? Emotions can take you to some very dark places.
It's the night before Halloween, and the streets of Colorado Springs are crawling with teenagers. There's an air of danger, both real and imagined, lurking around every corner.
There's all kinds of mischievous stuff going on. People will get their yards TP'd. Teenagers will throw eggs at people's houses. You never know what's going to happen.
Mm. 17-year-old James Horton has opted for a low-key evening at home.
I was watching a pretty scary movie on TV and trying to see how late I could stay up. Everybody else in the house was asleep.
He sees this person described as a zombie type person walking through the yard.
I had friends that we were always playing tricks on each other, and so I thought maybe it was somebody that was just kind of messing around with me. I went over to the door, and I was being real cautious because of the freakiness of the situation.
From the front door, James doesn't see anything unusual.
And I thought, well, that's really odd. And so I, still being the young, dumb teenager, I still went ahead and opened the door.
Oh my God. What happened? Are you okay?
When he turned his head, I noticed there was blood on the back of his neck, head area.
Dad, get out here now! We need help!
Across town, CSPD headquarters is buzzing with activity.
Hey, Lieutenant, get this. We just processed 2 vampires and a werewolf for property destruction.
Shaping up to be a long night.
Tell me about it. My first break all night.
2 or 3 days before Halloween, the activity level jumps dramatically. People drinking and wearing costumes to parties. Everyone is very busy. As a result, so are the police.
Hey, Lieutenant.
Jeez.
It's a common thing in law enforcement that there's always the pranksters around and they take advantage of everything, including Halloween.
Copy that.
Lieutenant, we just got a call of a shooting on the southeast side of town.
Well, so much for that break.
I'm in the simple act of trying to enjoy a cup of coffee, but in my business, it isn't simple.
The house in question sits along an otherwise empty stretch of road.
This is practically in the middle of nowhere.
How you doing, Lieutenant?
Hey, Brian. So what do we got?
We got a young male with multiple gunshot wounds to the head. He's been transported to St. Francis.
And we're able to identify this individual. And he's a 17-year-old high school student by the name of Benny Messina.
Any witnesses? The homeowner and his son. According to 911 operator, son observed a zombie-like figure approaching the house and then collapsed here on the porch.
When I walk up in the front porch of this home, there is blood, which I expected to see. But there's also some drag marks off the porch into an area of a bush in the yard. How'd they get there?
Yeah, about that. There's some inconsistencies in the homeowner's story. He told the officers that the victim came to the porch and collapsed, but the paramedics found him down in the bushes.
Well, kid certainly didn't drag himself. Where's this guy?
This guy leaning over by the patrol car over here.
I'm gonna talk to him.
Obviously, talking with Mr. Horton and getting the explanation of what happened on his front porch is important to us.
Mr. Horton, I'm Lieutenant Kenda.
You know, Lieutenant?
Do you mind telling me what happened here this evening?
I was in the bedroom when it all started.
I know it was past midnight. My son hollered up and said, "Dad, there's somebody at the door."
James, what's going on here?
I don't know. I would have crashed. He was on the porch.
Get in there and call 911.
According to Mr. Horton, at that point he began inspecting the young man's injuries and quickly made an alarming discovery.
He has a bullet protruding from his neck.
And that bullet let me know that he had to have immediate attention or he wasn't going to make it.
So why'd you move him?
I'm retired military, and my instincts were telling me we had to act quickly.
I did not want him to die on my watch. And if I could get the situation under control, then he may have a chance to live.
I think for anybody it'd be just so shocking because you'd wondered who'd shot this person. You know, are they close behind him?
We also moved him behind the bushes to protect ourselves and him just in case the shooter was still around. Come on, help me. We've got to move him. We've got to move him over here. Easy. All right, I'm gonna grab his shoulders. You're gonna grab his feet, all right? Lift.
And he says, drag him off the porch and put him in those bushes in case whoever did this comes back.
Ready? Down.
The idea being to protect that victim and protect his domicile from any further attack.
James, get out. Oh, go.
It's completely logical, his explanation for what he did.
No, I appreciate your help.
No problem.
Now that detectives know why Benny Messina was moved, they return to a more basic question.
Where did he come from?
Lieutenant, there's a distinct blood trail right over here.
Grab your flashlights. Let's see where it takes us.
We're able to identify a blood trail leading up to the front door. Backtracking that, we hope to be able to identify an exact crime scene.
The blood trail continues for approximately 30 yards before it abruptly stops near the road.
Did he even shot here?
Well, it's hard to say. Something happened here, though.
You're looking for exactly why this location. Is this the perfect spot for a body dump?
We notice near the blood trail where it ends, there is evidence of a car losing control. I believe there was a car involved that is long gone. Undoubtedly the suspect vehicle. The most likely scenario is our suspect or suspects shot this kid somewhere else, brought him here just to dump him. Except obviously he's not dead. Our victim stands up and starts walking toward the nearest light he sees, which is the Horton house.
Kenda may not know where Benny Messina was shot or why, but he now has a possible means of tracking down the shooter.
Let's collect some dirt samples for evidence. And can you get some castings of the tire tracks?
Tire casts are almost better than fingerprints. The system maintains records on every tire made and sold in North America, so we can identify those tires from the tread line.
As CSIs collect the tire casts, Kenda heads to St. Francis Hospital, hoping Benny Messina has survived and could perhaps shed light on the identity of the shooter.
Excuse me, I'm here to talk to Benny Messina.
I'm sorry, he's in no condition to see anybody.
Benny's in bad shape. He's got 2 gunshot wounds. One apparently is just a graze, but the other one is quite serious.
We're actually prepping him for surgery right now.
According to hospital staff, the bullet entered the back of Benny's head, but miraculously never reached his brain.
It would have killed him without question had it penetrated the bone. However, it ricocheted. The bullet missed everything that was vital. If you placed odds on this, it's a 1 in a million.
In the hallway, Kenda encounters Benny Messina's father, who has just received word that his son has been shot.
Mr. Messina?
Yes, sir.
I'm Lieutenant Kenda, the one handling your son's case.
Mm-hmm.
Mind if I ask you a few questions?
Of course.
He's already been told he's going to be fine. That takes a huge emotional edge away from him.
Can you tell me a little bit about Benny?
Yeah, Benny's a good student. I have a lot of friends in school.
Do you have any idea where he went tonight?
Benny's father said the last time he saw Benny was earlier that evening, and it was Benny's intention to go to a Halloween party. But Benny's father did not know where the party was or who was having the party.
But as Kenda speaks with Benny's father,
Lieutenant Kenda.
What is it?
the case takes an unexpected turn.
One of the nurses who's been attending our victim here drops a bombshell.
We have another victim.
What do you mean?
And that really surprised me. How do you know that? I don't like surprises. So we're investigating the shooting of Benny Messina when some nurse announces there's a second victim that we know nothing about.
What do you mean there's another shooting victim?
When we were getting Benny ready to go to sleep for surgery, he was telling us about his friend.
Miss Robert.
She said when they were starting to drift off, he kept asking about his friend Robert.
Wait,
Robert.
wait, Benny, what is it? What's wrong?
Friend,
we don't have
he got shot too.
So now we have an enormous complication that we know nothing about. Who's your friend Robert? And could finding them save their life?
He gave us the location, Circle Drive in Hancock.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gunshot wounds are always reported to police immediately. We have heard nothing about a medical call at Hancock and Circle.
Lieutenant Kenda, dispatch.
Dispatch.
It appears we have another shooting victim at Circle and Hancock.
So we send patrol units looking for Robert unknown.
10-4, Kenda.
You're definitely working against time here if they're still alive. They could die just from the fact that nobody got to them in time to save them.
While Benny Messina undergoes surgery, Kenda joins responding officers at the site of the second shooting and quickly realizes they are facing an enormous challenge.
We're surrounded by rural terrain. It's dark as you can't see your hand in front of your face. So how do we find Robert?
Hey, Lieutenant, we've searched the immediate area in this intersection. We just can't find anything here.
All right, we need to spread out and do a grid search. We got a lot of ground to cover. We're losing time.
Yes, sir.
You want to be able to get your team together and start a reasonably fast but thorough search of the area.
Copy that.
The police are on high alert. You want to find that person, and you've just got your fingers crossed that it's going to be a happy ending.
The team scans the area, but a lengthy search yields no sign of the alleged victim.
Sir, I've checked here and here.
But then, one member of the search party radios Kenda with a possible lead.
Hold that for me.
Officer Price for Kenda.
Go for Kenda.
I think I found something. I'm on a dirt access road 50 yards up Circle Drive, headed northbound.
10-4, I'll be right there. Want to go ahead and keep searching? Fritz?
An officer notices that there is one barricade that was placed to block access to an area, and that barricade had been moved.
Looks like somebody moved it just enough to get a vehicle through.
Well, check this out.
Yep.
And there were tire tracks in the dirt.
Lieutenant Kenda, I need all responders report to the access road off Circle Drive. Be aware there is tire tread evidence. Let's try to preserve the evidence, but finding our victim's priority one.
Copy that.
Yeah. We've got to start being careful now to make sure we're not becoming evidence eradicators.
Robert! Robert!
So now we have a place to focus.
Robert!
Over here! I can't find a pulse.
We got a man down. Need paramedics up here ASAP.
That gets everybody's attention really fast.
Robert! Robert, can you hear me? Robert, can you hear me?
Stay with us. What's going on?
We bring a medical team in there. I looked at that kid when they loaded him on a gurney. And I'm not a doctor, but I have looked at literally thousands of dead people. He does not appear to be alive. So at that moment, my emotions are revolving around the fact that we're not done yet. We've got now 2 victims. This is getting uglier by the minute.
All right, it's officially a crime scene. Still know where the other victim was shot. It could have been here also. So we need a thorough search of every inch of the site. All right?
Yes, sir. We start looking around this area where the body has been discovered. There ultimately is nothing except a bloodstain where he had been laying.
Still, Kenda and the team are hopeful the tire tracks may help answer one vital question.
It was the same car at both of these scenes.
I bet good money these are from the same vehicle.
You thinking Benny and Robert were both shot at this location?
Exactly.
This is Detective Ritz. Can I get a CSI over to the entrance by the sign? We're gonna need some more tire tread casts.
Our case is starting to come together, at least tying these 2 scenes together.
I'm getting some sense of this in my own head. This is malice aforethought, scheme, and design. The plan is to kill 2 people. Let's take them to a remote area and shoot them. The elements of first-degree murder.
As the sun rises over Colorado Springs, Kenda checks in on the 2 victims.
Excuse me. I want to check on the status of Benny Messina.
Benny is out of surgery. They removed the slug, and it is a .22 caliber bullet.
We believe he will make a full recovery. He's still under the effects of the sedation, but he should be able to receive visitors later today.
Benny's out of the picture because of his anesthesia. So now what about Robert?
Unfortunately, Robert's a different story, but he was pronounced dead on arrival.
The deceased is identified as 18-year-old Robert Costello, a high school senior.
Robert was born in Germany but was raised in Colorado Springs. He's a good kid, well-educated kid, does very well in school, and has a part-time job in a bicycle shop.
Do they have a cause of death?
Yes, it was from a single gunshot wound from a .22 caliber. We've notified Robert's family, and his stepmother, Cindy, ID'd the body.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Kenda hopes that a conversation with Robert Costello's family will offer some additional insight.
You are now faced with a mother who knows her son isn't coming home anymore. You have to be extremely careful. You try to understand their circumstances and their pain. But at the same time, you have an obligation to investigate the death of their son.
Mrs. Costello? I'm Lieutenant Kenda. I know it's a difficult time, but I need your help in order to find out what happened to Robert. Do you mind if I ask you a few questions?
You understand, it's okay.
She's very emotionally distressed, of course. She's trying to hold it together.
Do you know Benny Messina?
Yes, he's good friends with Robert. They both go to Harrison High School. They're always together, but I honestly didn't know what they were up to tonight. I'm sorry.
Well, that's okay. That's our job to find out. Do you know if Robert had any enemies?
And she becomes even more distressed.
There's been threats made against my entire family. Of course, I was concerned, but I just never think somebody could actually go through with it.
Now that rings a very strong bell. Who could it be making those kinds of threats?
Well, you don't have to.
Somebody who's willing to end Robert's life, probably. We're investigating the shootings of Benny Messina, who has survived the attack, and Robert Costello, who did not survive. And Robert's stepmother tells me my entire family has been threatened, and that raises an eyebrow.
My other son, Colin, he's Robert's stepbrother. He's been having some trouble with another boy in his class.
She reports that her son, Colin, tells her that he is threatened directly by a person whose name is Brian Cast. who tells Colin Costello that you and your entire family are dead.
If I had been Robert's stepmom, at that point I would have been terrified.
Well, you don't have to.
Did Brian Cast make good on his threat by shooting Colin's older brother, Robert? And was Benny Messina merely collateral damage? People often say because it's a kid to another kid that it's an idle threat. But a kid will pull the trigger faster than an adult will. So when a kid says to somebody, I'm going to kill you, it'd be in your interest to believe it.
Later that day, Brian Cast's mother brings her son to the station for questioning.
Brian, thanks for coming in. Have a seat.
This better not take all day.
We find him to be standoffish, kind of a smart aleck at times, doesn't really appreciate the seriousness of the nature that we're there for.
We have a report you've been making threats against your classmate, Colin Costello, and his family.
I might have said something. So what? I didn't do anything.
And Mr. Cast, you are here because we are investigating a first-degree murder and an attempt at another one.
It would be in your best interest to pay attention to what I had to say.
Listen, I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I'm concerned. You just admitted making threats against the Costellos. And now Colin's brother's dead.
And all of a sudden, the arrogance is gone. The bravado is gone. Now he looks like what he is, a little kid.
I might have said those things, but I was just bluffing. Colin was picking on me, and I just needed something to get him to back off.
Why don't you tell me what instigated the entire thing?
Colin and I both play soccer. A few weeks ago, a bunch of us were having a practice match. Give me! Oh, Timmy!
He goes on to say that he is tripped during a soccer game by Colin. They have words.
What the hell was that for?
Colin's friends come up to Colin's aid and announce they're going to kick this kid's ass. He becomes afraid.
I knew the only way to get him off my back was if I turned the tables on them. You put one finger on me and you'll regret it. You and your whole family are dead.
So he makes that threat to defend himself from what he thinks is a group of people who want to hurt him.
Look, I swear, it was all an act. I don't know anything about the shooting. It's the honest truth. Do you believe me?
Just make yourself comfortable. I'm gonna make a phone call.
So let's talk to Colin and let's confirm that what Brian tells me is in fact the truth, and then we can close the matter. When we speak to Colin about this, he freely admits he never told his mother about tripping the kid at soccer because he'd get yelled at. It's much better to report to your mother that you are a victim.
Well, Brian, your story checks out. You're free to go.
So now we've eliminated our first and only suspect. Brian Cast is out the window.
With Benny Messina still recovering from surgery, Kenda returns to the hospital and tracks down Benny's mother, Martha.
My purpose in discussing things with the mother is obvious. Mothers tend to know everything about their sons.
Can you think of anyone that want to harm them?
Just as she knows a man whose name is Jose Fernandez Sr., who is a male in his 40s, and she's heard Jose Fernandez Sr. threaten Benny over the phone. Now, why is he threatening a 17-year-old?
Kenda learns that Jose's son, Joe Jr., was good friends with Benny and Robert.
And she says that Benny, Robert, and Joe Fernandez had gotten into a little bit of trouble at the high school.
According to Martha, a few months ago, the three friends decided to skip class.
You should just skip the rest of the day.
I agree.
Guys, oh my gosh,
check this out.
It's the teacher's car that was left in the parking lot of school with the windows down and the keys were in it, on the dash.
Dude, no, it's just for a little bit. Nobody's even gonna notice.
They see it, they take it, they go to lunch, they drive around.
It's really thumbing your nose at authority because they didn't steal a car of another student. They stole a teacher's car.
Woo! Hell yeah.
and they abandon the car, and they return to school and go back to class as if nothing happened. It's a classic joyride.
Except all 3 young men got caught and were arrested and charged with theft.
This was just stupid teenage boy stuff. Give them a little space, give them an opportunity, and a lot of times they'll use it to its absolute worst advantage.
Benny Messina's offered a deal, and he takes it. He's going to get a summons and complaint and probation. Costello takes the same deal.
Their friend Joe Jr. chose to fight the charges. However, as part of Benny and Robert's plea deal, they agreed to testify against Joe Jr. His father, Jose Fernandez Sr., was furious.
Goes from a telephone conversation threatening Benny over this testimony business to Mr. Fernandez Sr. showing up at the Messina home.
According to Martha, 2 weeks earlier, an inebriated Jose Sr. came to their house, pounding on the door and threatening her husband, Thomas.
Open the door! Hey, what's going on here? Are you really gonna let your son tell lies in court about Joe?
Listen, buddy, he will testify in court, all the truth.
Your kid's a liar. My Joe didn't do anything. He didn't steal that car with them. And Benny better get that straight if he knows what's good for him.
He was going to protect his kid, whatever's necessary.
Why would a father go to the extreme of threatening people about testifying against his son for a simple auto theft case? I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
Intrigued, Kenda sends a couple of officers to the Fernandez home to speak with Jose Sr.
In the meantime, I'll do a little digging on my own into Jose Sr.'s background.
Lieutenant, here's that file he requested. There's not much in it, though.
Okay, thank you.
We were shocked to learn that Fernandez Sr. had never been arrested by anybody for any reason. He was a cabinet maker by trade. It was viewed by his supervisors as an excellent worker, one of the best at the company.
The more we look into this, it's kind of like, is this guy really somebody who went out and killed somebody?
20 minutes later, Kenda gets a call that could answer that question.
334 to Lieutenant Kenda.
Go for Kenda.
Hey, Lieutenant, we're at the Fernandez residence right now, and you're going to want to come see this.
There's a vehicle out there, and it has what appears to be blood staining on it.
10-4, I'll be right there.
High-velocity blood spatter comes from one thing, gunshot. There is no doubt in my mind that this is the car. We're investigating the death of Robert Costello. We have developed a new suspect, Jose Fernandez Sr., whose son was a participant in an auto theft with the 2 victims. When I sent officers to his house to question him, they observed high-velocity blood spatter on the bumper of the family car.
So what do you got?
We've not talked to the residents yet.
Okay, I got a search warrant. Let's go.
The officers try a normal knock and they get no response. So we then move to the police knock. And it's Jose Fernandez Sr.
He sees our guns and immediately slams the door. That's when the hair on the back of your neck stands up. Is he going to get guns and start shooting it out with us?
Police, open the door, Jose. Let's do this the easy way.
We inform him that we're investigating a homicide, and his family rides sitting in the driveways, leaving with us by warrant.
Jose, open the door slowly, where I can see your hand. Your hand. This is ridiculous. You can't do this. You've got no right.
Actually, we do, Mr. Fernandez. Now stay right here while men search your house.
Dad, what's going on?
And out comes Jose Fernandez Jr.
Never mind, go back to your room.
Actually, Joe, I want you to stay here with us.
So the first question we ask is, do you have a gun in this house?
No.
So you're saying neither of you own a gun, and we're not going to find one in this house?
Absolutely not.
No.
Hey, Lieutenant.
So that's not your gun? Well, since both of you lied to me, both of you are going to go downtown until we sort this out. Go ahead and cuff him.
Turn around.
So I give instructions to remove and preserve the vehicle for evidence gathering. And now I have a lot to discuss with this father and son duo.
Back at the station, Kenda is seated with a much more composed Jose Fernandez Sr.
I have a few theories about what happened to those two kids, but I'd like to hear the truth out of your own mouth.
Sure. I've got nothing to hide.
He has a very simple story. He was home asleep and knows nothing and doesn't have anything else to say.
We've got a report that you recently threatened a minor, Benny Messina.
I never threatened anyone. I just asked him to tell the truth about my son.
And what was that?
That he's innocent. He's not a car thief. He's a great kid.
Mr. Fernandez immediately puts both oars in the water and begins to row across the lake. Everybody in the world is lying except Mr. Fernandez.
Well, the one thing that you can't deny is the .22 revolver we found in your home.
I have no idea how that got there. I've never even handled a gun.
Well, if that's the case, it leads me to believe it belongs to your son.
No, absolutely not.
Settle down.
Jose Sr. just absolutely could not accept even really a pretty minor judgment that his kid was not a great kid.
Would you be willing to do a gunshot residue test?
Sure.
We do a GSR test on Fernandez Sr. to show whether he fired or handled a handgun in the past 24 hours or so.
Kenda is hopeful the GSR test will cement Jose Sr. as the shooter.
When we are able to conduct that test, we come up with the negative results.
So Fernandez Sr., despite his bravado, certainly we have him being an astounding liar, but we don't have him pulling a trigger.
With Jose Sr. ruled out as possible shooter, Kenda turns his attention to Joe Jr.
Fernandez Jr. is different than his father in the sense that he does have a criminal past. It's a minor criminal past. It's petty offenses.
Relax, your dad's not here. I just want to get your side of the story, okay?
Okay, sure.
And he says he had been with Benny and Robert earlier that evening, met him at a 7-Eleven, and they had a couple of beers.
We were just out talking for a little bit, and then I left and took off and went home. I don't know what they did after that.
And that's the whole story?
Yeah. Do you really think I'd hurt my friends?
Well, I'd like to get a couple swabs of your hands.
All right.
Officer?
We take the GSR kit from Joe Jr. after explaining to him what it is. And you could see it in his face. Like, uh-oh, he knows that that's going to be positive.
Sir, actually, I do have something I need to tell you. I remembered something. I went target shooting this morning, so that test might come back positive.
Oh, really? With the gun you don't have? He just looks at me. He said, well, there was this other kid I know. What other kid?
I don't know.
You know a lot, do you? They come back with a test result. They're positive. And now, little Mr. Arrogant is scared to death.
Lieutenant?
When I was about to go after him about all the lies,
The hospital called Benny Messina has been cleared to give his statement.
All right, tell him on the way.
now Benny being awake is a lot more important to me. As I was leaving that room, I looked at Joe Jr. and I said, you know, when you shoot people, you gotta make sure they're dead. We have confronted the Hernandez family, senior and junior. Now we have the opportunity to talk to a living victim, a rarity in these cases.
After questioning both Joe Jr. and Jose Sr., Kenda heads back to the hospital to speak with Benny Messina. Kenda's hopeful Benny can spell out exactly what happened the night of the shooting.
I'm Lieutenant Kenda. I'm sorry about what happened.
His neck, of course, is heavily bandaged, and he's distressed over the death of his friend. But he's willing and able to tell me what happened.
Well, all this trouble kind of started when we stole the teacher's car. I don't know why Joe was denying it. If he would have just confessed, like me and Robert, we'd probably just get probation, too.
So Joe Jr. was angry at you for testifying?
Oh, no. I mean, he told me that he knew why we were doing this, like he understood it, but his dad was still really pissed at us.
Want to walk me through what happened that night?
He says that he and his friend Robert are making a coffin in Benny's garage for a Halloween party they've been invited to.
Okay, do it. This is so sweet.
Dude, this is awesome.
They're laughing about death, and little do they know that Halloween's going to get very real for them in a short amount of time.
It's gonna scare a lot of kids.
They're getting ready to leave.
Hello?
They get called by Jose Jr., wants to get together.
According to Benny, a few hours later, they met up with Joe Jr. at the party.
What's up, dude?
So, what do you guys want to do?
I was thinking we could just drive around and see what's going on.
Parents want me home by midnight.
Screw that. Let's get out of here.
They end up off Circle and Hancock in a new construction area.
There was some construction barriers still up there, kind of stopping cars from going through the road.
Wait, why are we here?
Help me move this barricade. Okay, but what are we even doing here?
It's Devil's Night. We should steal something.
Like what?
Oh, this blinky light.
Oh.
Come on, let's go check out what they got. Come on.
And Joe Jr. drives the car into an even darker area.
Benny tells Kenda that's when things took a dangerous turn.
Check this out.
Whoa, is that a real gun?
Yeah? Let's play Russian roulette.
No way, man.
Fine. Dance for me.
What the hell, man? Are you nuts?
I'm gonna shoot you for narking on me.
Benny sees him go down. He turns his face away from the gunfire, taking that grazing wound in his head.
What are you doing, man?
Oh my God, man. It was an accident.
What do you mean it was an accident? You just shot me.
And all of a sudden, Joe Jr. has a change of heart. Is he overcome by the guilt of what he's done?
Let me get you to a hospital. Come on.
Benny is scared to death. He has suffered a grazing gunshot wound, but it bleeds profusely. So Benny gets in the car. What about Robert? And Joe says, he's dead. Let's go.
Your next thought is, I need to get away from this person. How am I going to start doing that?
Okay, hurry up, bro. I'm bleeding everywhere.
I am. We have to go get my dad first.
What? Why? We're like 10 minutes away from the hospital.
Look, my dad will know what to do in a situation like this. We have to go get him. Dude, I am so sorry.
I was in his car, and I thought he was bringing me to the hospital, but he picked up his dad.
Dad gets in the car and takes over.
Where's Costello?
Dead.
Benny thinks they're going to go to St. Francis Hospital, but Joe Jr. turns the other way. He has no idea what to do.
Where are we going?
Shut up. It's time for you to join your friend Costello.
So Benny decides he's got to try to save his life.
He decided to grab the steering wheel and yanked it real hard to the right.
And they lose control of the car.
You little bastard! That's it!
Joe Sr. is furious when the car stops. Drags Benny out of the car and proceeds to punch and kick him in the face and chest.
Benny claims that's when Joe Jr. took out the gun and fired one final shot into the back of his head.
That'll do it.
Benny is smart enough to play dead, and then he waits to make certain they're gone. He feels a lump in his neck. He doesn't know what that is.
That's the bullet that travels around the skull and comes lodged in the neck. Anybody else probably would have killed him. It just wasn't his day.
And he sees a light. It's a house. And he staggers toward that house to get help. That is a remarkable story.
Benny Messina's statement cements the case against Jose Fernandez Sr. and his son, Joe Jr.
Everything that the major accident team investigators said happened was corroborated by Benny.
We had the tire tracks at both scenes. And our traffic experts are able to look at these and say the pattern is absolutely consistent.
In my mind, it appears to me, obviously, that Senior is the architect of this entire affair.
Dad actively participated in this. He endangered other lives because he couldn't accept the fact that maybe his son did do an auto theft.
Joe Fernandez Jr. pleads guilty to second-degree murder and attempted first-degree murder and is sentenced to 32 years. Jose Fernandez Sr. is convicted of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, attempted first-degree murder, and second-degree kidnapping. He is sentenced to 30 years in prison.
The real tragedy here is that these young men...
They said the sea keeps secrets. But in the fall of 1987, the waves of Clearwater, Florida, brought one back. A body. Young. Female. Barely identifiable. Tangled in seaweed and salt, washed ashore at dawn. The air was still. The sun hadn't yet broken the horizon. A jogger found her. He thought at first it was driftwood. Then he saw the hair, the skin, the lifeless hand pointing toward the road. Police sealed the beach within the hour. Reporters gathered by noon. The town whispered by evening. Clearwater was quiet back then. Retirees, fishermen, summer tourists. Murders didn't belong here. But this wasn't just a murder. It was the beginning of something that would haunt the state for decades. The body was a Jane Doe. No ID, no jewelry, no wallet. Just bruises, a torn dress, and a faded motel key in her pocket. Number 217. The coroner noted signs of struggle, salt water in her lungs, but no signs of sexual assault. She'd been alive when she hit the water. Drowned. Deliberately. Detectives traced the motel key to the Gulf Breeze Inn, a cheap roadside place 2 miles inland. Room 217 had been rented 3 nights before, paid in cash. The clerk remembered a woman matching the description. Mid-20s, long dark hair, nervous, alone. She'd checked in under the name Laura James, but the ID she showed was fake. The address didn't exist. Room 217 was spotless when police arrived. Bed made, no fingerprints, no personal belongings. Just one strange thing, a Bible on the nightstand, open to the book of John, chapter 13, verse 27. And after the morsel, Satan entered into him. Someone had underlined it. Forensics took photos, dusted for prints, collected fibers. Nothing matched anyone in the system. The room smelled faintly of bleach. A housekeeper later said she'd cleaned it 2 days before the body was found, but she remembered the lock sticking, like someone had forced it shut from the inside. Days passed, then weeks. The media called her the Clearwater Jane Doe. Police canvassed the area, checked missing persons reports, ran sketches on TV. Hundreds of calls came in, none led anywhere. One woman swore she'd seen her at a bar near Tampa. She was crying into her drink, the witness said, but the bartender didn't remember her. Another caller claimed she was his ex-girlfriend. False lead. By November, the case had gone cold. Detective Richard Hale was 39 then, a quiet man, veteran of the force, meticulous, patient. He'd seen enough death to know when something didn't add up. He kept the case file on his desk long after everyone else shelved it. He'd flip it open late at night, staring at the autopsy photos, the motel key, the underlined Bible verse. He said later, "It felt like she was trying to tell us something. We just weren't listening." But life moved on. The case faded from headlines. The motel changed owners. The beach eroded. And the woman with no name disappeared again, this time into the archives of unsolved crimes. Then, in 1990, a new detail emerged. A clerk at the Clearwater County Records Office was digitizing old motel logs when she noticed something odd. 3 days before the Jane Doe checked in, another guest had rented room 215, 2 doors down, under the name Michael James. The surname matched. The handwriting was nearly identical, and the address he listed was the same fake one from her ID. Detectives reopened the file. They found a partial fingerprint on the motel's old registration card. Technology had improved since '87. The print matched a man named Michael Langford, a drifter arrested in Georgia in 1991 for burglary. He'd died in custody 2 years earlier. Langford had a record: petty theft, fraud, assault. But nothing connected him to Florida. His surviving relatives described him as charming, manipulative, a wanderer who made trouble wherever he went. When shown a photo of the Clearwater Jane Doe, his sister hesitated. "That could have been his girlfriend back then," she said. "He had one. From Miami, I think. She was sweet. Too good for him." Her name? The sister couldn't remember, just that it started with an L. Police tried tracing Langford's old addresses. One led to a halfway house in Daytona. There, a former roommate recalled something strange. He had this box he never opened. Always said it was full of memories of the one who got away. When he skipped town, he left it behind. Inside the box were postcards, a few photos, and a broken silver locket. One photo showed Langford with a woman on a pier, arm around her shoulders, both smiling. On the back, someone had written, "LJ, Clearwater, 1987. That was enough. For years, investigators believed the Clearwater Jane Doe might be Laura James, the alias she used at the motel. But now it seemed it wasn't a name she invented. It was her real initials. LJ. Still, no match appeared in missing persons databases. No family came forward. The woman remained nameless. In 2005, when the Florida Department of Law Enforcement launched a cold case DNA initiative, the Clearwater file resurfaced again. The coroner had preserved tissue samples from the victim. They extracted a DNA profile and uploaded it to CODIS. Nothing. But 15 years later, in 2020, technology caught up again. Investigators used genetic genealogy, tracing distant relatives through consumer DNA databases. A hit came back. A match to a woman in Michigan who had uploaded her family tree online. She was a second cousin to the unidentified victim. Her name was Diane Blake. When detectives called her, Diane broke down crying. She said her cousin, Lena Johnson, had disappeared from Miami in 1987. 24 years old. Waitress. Last seen leaving her apartment after a fight with her boyfriend, a man named Michael Langford. The match was undeniable. DNA confirmed it. The Clearwater Jane Doe finally had a name. The news broke in March 2021. 1987 Florida cold case identified after 34 years. Headlines read, the story went viral. Part tragedy, part triumph. But to Detective Hale, long retired by then, something about it still felt wrong. Langford had died decades earlier, supposedly ending the story. Yet the way Lena's body was found, the missing evidence, the underlined Bible verse, it all suggested someone else was involved. A week later, the department received an anonymous package. Inside, an old cassette tape, a typed note that read simply, "Play this before it's too late." The handwriting was shaky, almost childlike. The postmark came from a hospice in Sarasota. Detectives played the tape. The voice on it was male, raspy, weak. My name is Michael Langford," it began. "And I didn't kill her." Static crackled, then silence. The tape continued. "I did bad things. I lied. I ran. But Lena, she didn't drown because of me. She trusted the wrong person. The preacher, he said he could help her. He said he knew God would forgive her. I told her not to go. I told her. But she went. A cough, a long pause, then the last words, barely audible. "Find the man who underlined the verse. He's still out there." The confession was dated February 2021, a month before Langford's recorded death from lung cancer. Forensic experts verified the tape's authenticity. The voice matched Langford's old prison recordings. It wasn't a hoax. The cold case was no longer solved. It was just beginning again. The preacher, the verse, the motel Bible, all roads circled back to that one room. 217. Detective Hale returned to Clearwater for the first time in years. The motel had been renovated, repainted, renamed. But when he stood outside room 217, he said it still felt the same. Heavy, haunted, the past humming through the walls. He knocked once. No answer. The door creaked open anyway. Inside the air was cold, and on the nightstand, no joke, no coincidence, was a Bible. Open to John 13:27. The Bible lay open, untouched, like it had been waiting all these years. Same verse, same underline, same quiet chill pressing against the air. Detective Hale stared at it for a long time, his reflection trembling in the gold-edged pages. He didn't believe in signs. Not anymore. But this felt personal. He called the current manager, a woman named Carla Ruiz, who'd owned the motel for 10 years. She swore no one had placed that Bible there. Every room had been redecorated, repainted, stripped bare. No furniture from the old days remained. "We replaced everything," she said. "Even the nightstands. I don't know how that book ended up there." When forensics came to collect it, the Bible's cover looked aged but intact, its pages yellowed. Lab analysis later showed the paper stock and ink were from the 1980s. The handwriting was the same underlined stroke width, the same ballpoint ink degradation. Somehow the Bible from 1987 had returned. The tape's confession and the reappearance of the book reignited the case. Newsvans swarmed Clearwater again. Cold case reopens after 34 years. Deathbed confession raises new suspect. Reporters chased Hale outside his retirement home, microphones flashing like gunfire. He refused interviews. He wasn't there for fame. He wanted answers. He started by re-examining Langford's final words. Find the man who underlined the verse. Who was the preacher? The 1987 police report had one small reference that no one had followed up on. A witness from the Gulf Breeze Inn, a man named William Cates, listed as pastor, traveling ministry. He'd checked in 3 days before Lena's death. He'd used the motel's small meeting room to host a local Bible study. He'd left the morning her body was found. No one had ever interviewed him. Hale pulled the old registration card from the archives. William Cates, Fort Myers address. When police tried the address back in '87, the building was abandoned. The name went nowhere. But the world had changed. Databases, property records, digital archives, everything could be traced now. Within hours, Hale found a William J. Cates listed as deceased in 2012, buried in a small church cemetery in Hernando County. No surviving relatives, no criminal record, no mention in any news archives. Just a footnote. Still, something didn't fit. Hale drove up to Hernando, 2 hours north of Clearwater. The church was small, white wooden walls, paint peeling like dry skin under the sun. The pastor who greeted him, a man named Reverend Coleman, said he'd never met Cates but knew of him. He was part of a traveling revival. Coleman explained. Moved around Florida in the 80s, preached forgiveness, redemption, salvation from sin. What kind of sin? Hale asked. Coleman hesitated. He believed in purging the body to cleanse the soul. That phrase stuck. When Hale visited the cemetery, he found Cates's gravestone. Modest, no flowers, no visitors. But the date caught his attention. Born 1938, died 2012. Same year, the Clearwater Motel underwent full renovation. The same year the original furniture and belongings were supposed to have been destroyed. Halle knelt beside this grave and whispered the verse aloud. And after the morsel, Satan entered into him. The wind shifted, the palm fronds rattled. Back in Clearwater, forensic teams dusted the reappeared Bible again. This time they found something new. Partial fingerprints embedded in the page fibers, too faint for traditional analysis, but recoverable through advanced spectral imaging. The print wasn't Langford's. It wasn't Hale's. It belonged to a man identified through old military archives. William Cates. The Bible was his, and somehow it had traveled across 3 decades, 3 owners, 2 demolitions, to rest again on the same nightstand. The case became national news. "Florida cold case takes supernatural turn," one outlet blared. But Hale wasn't interested in theories. He wanted proof. He wanted to know why Cates had been there that week. What tied him to Lena Johnson? He searched church records, sermon notes, old newspaper clippings. Slowly, a pattern began to emerge. Between 1985 and 1988, Cates's ministry hosted small revival meetings across the Gulf Coast. The gatherings always coincided with missing person reports. Women, mostly young, often traveling alone, often described as troubled or seeking redemption. The police never connected the dots. In Tampa, 1986, a runaway vanished after attending a tent revival. In Pensacola, 1988, a motel maid disappeared after working an event for Pastor Cates's healing mission. Neither case was solved. Hale took his findings to the Florida Bureau of Investigation. The analysts mapped the disappearances and compared them to Cates's documented sermons. 11 overlaps, 11 women, all unsolved. The press called him the redemption killer, but the evidence was thin. No physical proof, no surviving witnesses, no living suspect. Until Hale received a call from a woman in her 60s living in Gainesville. Her name was Ruth Emery. She'd read about the case online and said she'd once known Cates. When Hale met her, she was frail, trembling. Oxygen tube by her nose. She'd been a young nurse at a rehab clinic in 1987. "He used to come by every Sunday," she said, voice quivering. "Preached to the patients. Always gentle, polite. But sometimes—" She paused. "Sometimes he'd get this look in his eyes, like he was listening to someone else." Hale asked if she'd ever met a woman named Lena Johnson. Ruth nodded slowly. "Yes. She came in once, bruised face, said she was looking for forgiveness. Cates told her he could cleanse her sins. He told her to meet him that night at a motel by the beach. Clearwater. Do you remember what he said exactly?" Hale pressed. Ruth closed her eyes, whispering the words as if repeating a ghost's echo. He said, "The water washes away what the blood cannot." Hale felt his stomach twist. That phrase, it matched the coroner's note. Salt water in Lena's lungs, not post-mortem. Drowned Aleb. A baptism turned execution. Forensics re-examined Lena's remains, now preserved in evidence storage. New scanning technology revealed small abrasions on her wrists, marks consistent with cloth restraints, not rope. The same pattern used in ritual baptisms when hands were bound lightly to prevent struggle. It wasn't a murder of passion. It was a ceremony. The preacher had performed his last sermon in salt water. Hale returned to the motel one more time. Room 217 had been stripped bare again, sealed off for new forensic testing. As he stood inside, the hum of old electricity filled his ears. He imagined Lena standing there, shaking, scared, clutching the motel key, believing she was about to be saved. He saw Cates behind her, calm, smiling, Bible in hand. The air conditioner rattled. Then, from somewhere inside the wall, came a hollow thud. Technicians cut open the panel. Inside, wedged between layers of insulation, they found a plastic bag. Old, brittle, yellow with age. Inside, a Polaroid photo, a hotel towel, and a small metal pendant shaped like a cross. The Polaroid showed Lena kneeling in shallow water, her hands clasped, eyes closed. Behind her stood a man in a white shirt, sleeves rolled, hand resting on her shoulder. The man's face was shadowed, but his outline matched Kate's. The towel was monogrammed, GBI, Gulf Breeze Inn. The pendant? Inside its hollow backplate was a folded note. One line, written in blue ink, "Forgive me, Father, for what I've done in your name." No signature. The room fell silent. Hale stared at the Polaroid, the note, the pendant. He knew this wasn't over. Someone had gone through a lot of effort to hide these things, not destroy them, not throw them away, but hide them close to the scene. Why? Unless someone had planned for them to be found. Later that night, as Hale drove home along US Route 19, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being followed. A pair of headlights stayed 2 cars behind him for 20 miles, never passing, never falling back. When he pulled into a diner, the car drove past, slow enough for him to glimpse the driver. An old man, face half lit by the dashboard glow. For a split second, Hale swore he saw the eyes, cold, distant, like the ones Ruth described, listening to someone else. But Kate's had been dead for 13 years. That night, Hale received a text from an unknown number. 1 photo, 1 message. The photo, the Polaroid from room 217, taken from evidence custody just hours before. The message, "The water isn't done yet." The photo glowed on the phone screen like something alive. Grainy, washed-out Polaroid colors. Lena on her knees in the water, the shadowed man behind her, and somehow, impossibly, the shot taken straight out of an evidence locker that was supposed to be sealed, guarded, untouchable. The message below it was simple, almost casual. "The water isn't done yet." Detective Hale stared at the text, his thumb hovering over the screen. The diner around him faded, the clink of plates, the hiss of grease, the drone of a football game on a dusty TV. Everything narrowed down to those 4 words. The water isn't done yet. He looked up, scanning the parking lot through the smudged window. Darkness, neon reflections in puddles, a couple arguing by a pickup. No sign of the car that had been tailing him, no sign of anyone watching. He didn't call 911. He called the one number he still trusted at the Clearwater PD. Lieutenant Maria Torres, head of major crimes now, a rookie back when Lena's body first washed up. She picked up on the second ring. "Hale, it's late. You okay?" "They got into the evidence room," he said, voice level, almost too calm. "Someone took a Polaroid from the Lena Johnson file and sent it to me." A pause, long, slow, dangerous. "You're sure it's the same photo?" "I've had that image burned into my brain for 34 years, he said. "I'd recognize it in my sleep." 10 minutes later, Torres had him on speaker in the secure evidence vault, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the air cold and dry. Officers moved like ghosts in the background. "The box looks untouched," she said. "Seal's still intact. Lock code hasn't been changed. If that photo's gone, I'll know in a second." He listened to the rustle of files, the slide of cardboard, the clink of plastic sleeves. Then softly, "Son of a, it's here." Hale blinked. "What?" "The Polaroid, still in the bag with the towel and the pendant. It never left." He looked again at the phone in his hand. Same framing, same angle, same warped colors. But now, one detail screamed at him. The version on his phone had a timestamp, a digital overlay in the corner. A date from that very afternoon. Someone had rephotographed the original. Up close, inside the vault. "Check your cameras," Hale said. "Every angle, every hallway, every second of today." They did. The next morning, he sat in the PD's tiny security room, the smell of burnt coffee thick in the air, as hours of footage played on a grid of monitors. The evidence room appeared on 3 separate feeds, 1 inside, 2 outside. Corridors, loading dock, stairwell, everything recorded, archived, time-stamped. Between 8:00 a.m. and 7:00 p.m., 9 people entered the vault. Torres, 2 property clerks, forensics techs, a janitor, a uniform officer delivering seized narcotics. All logged, all badged in. At 3:16 p.m., a man in a grey suit approached the door. Mid-50s, clean shave, glasses. He glanced once at the camera, stepped forward, swiped his ID, and walked inside. The system labeled him as Chaplain Harris Daniel. Clearance approved. Duration, 11 minutes. You have a chaplain with full access to evidence? Hale asked, eyes narrowing. Torres shifted in her chair. He's been on contract for years. Grief counseling, staff support. Sometimes he blesses the bodies before burial. He likes to pray over the forgotten ones. The forgotten ones. Hale repeated, like cold cases. They played the interior footage. The man in the grey suit moved slowly along the shelves, his hands clasped behind his back, head bowed. At first it looked like he was praying. His lips moved. His eyes lingered on each box label like they were names etched into a gravestone. Then he stopped. Drawer C-17. L. Johnson. 1987. Clearwater Beach Homicide. He pulled it out. No hesitation. No searching. No confusion. Like he'd known exactly where to go. He opened the box. He didn't take anything. Didn't pocket the pendant. Didn't steal the Polaroid. But he did something else. He lifted the photo with both hands, held it up to the light, and then smiled. Just a little. Just enough. He took out a phone. Clicked one picture. Maybe two. Slipped the photo back into its plastic sleeve. Closed the box. Slid the drawer in. Then he bowed his head, murmured something, and walked out. 11 minutes. That was all. Bring him in, Hale said. They did. Chaplain Daniel Harris arrived willingly, without a lawyer, still wearing his grey suit, white collar, and gold cross pinned neatly to his lapel. His hair was thinning, his hands steady. He looked like every hospital pastor who'd ever walked a hallway after midnight. Calm, gentle, exhausted. They sat him in interview too, cameras rolling. Fluorescent light buzzing. Hale watched from the observation room at first, the glass a one-way mirror between them. Torres began. Chaplain Harris, do you know why you're here? He folded his hands. I assume it's about the evidence room. I was called down yesterday to pray over a few unresolved cases. Officer Ramirez asked if I'd like to see the coldest ones. He offered a faint smile. I took that as a challenge. You photographed crime scene photo, she said, without permission. Then someone texted that photo to a retired detective alongside a threatening message. That's troubling, Harris said softly, eyes dropping to the table. But I assure you, Lieutenant, I sent no such text. Hale watched the man's face carefully. No twitch, no stutter, no beads of sweat. He looked genuinely saddened. Or he'd spent a lifetime rehearsing that expression. Why that case? Torres asked. Out of hundreds, why Lena Johnson? Harris eyed, fingers tracing the edge of his cross. Officer Ramirez said it was one of our oldest unsolved. A girl the sea didn't want, I think he called her. It stirred something in me. The name. The year. I worked in Miami in the late 80s, you see. I met many Lenas in those days. Lost souls. Girls who thought God had forgotten them. He looked up at the mirror, right where Hale stood. It felt intentional. Hale stepped into the room. The chaplain's eyes flicked to him, recognition sparking. You must be Detective Hale. Was. Hale said. Now I'm just the old man who can't let go. Harris smiled, polite. The persistent ones are often the saints in disguise. I'm no saint, Hale replied. But I am curious. Why'd you smile at that photo? For the first time, Harris faltered, a tiny crack in the calm. I don't recall smiling, he said. We have it on camera. Hale said. You did. You looked at her face and smiled. Why? Silence. The hum of the AC unit vibrated through the walls. He exhaled slowly. Sometimes, he said, when I see someone who's been lost for so long, I feel hope. That maybe, finally, someone is still fighting for them. It's a smile for the living, not the dead. He said all the right words, but there was something in his voice, a rhythm, a cadence, familiar. Later, alone with Torres, Hale played back a segment of the recording. Harris speaking. Girls who thought God had forgotten them. Then he opened the hospice tape. Langford's last words. The preacher. He said he could help her. He said he knew God would forgive her. Different men. Different situations. But the same rolling cadence on the word God. The same drawn-out forgive. Get me his file. Hale said. Every assignment, every church, every hospital. I want his work history from the day he took his first paycheck. It took 48 hours. Chaplain Daniel Harris had moved. A lot. Hospitals from Orlando to Miami, rehab centers, small-town clinics, mobile ministries, places where people slipped through cracks, places no one looked twice when someone quietly disappeared. And in the margins of those locations, dates circled in red, missing person reports, young women, many of them described as addicts, runaways, sex workers. Sex sinners, some would have called them. Maybe we're chasing the wrong preacher. Torres muttered, staring at the board crowded with photos and red string. Cates was the ghost. But this guy? He's the one still walking around. Hale didn't respond immediately, because something else in Harris's file made his blood run cold. Before he was a chaplain, before he was ordained, before the white collar and the cross pin, he'd been a youth pastor at a traveling revival group, a small interstate ministry with a forgettable name, Sea of Mercy Fellowship. The same phrase Hale had seen scrawled on the back of a flyer recovered from Cates's old storage unit. The same ministry associated with at least 4 of the missing women in the FBI's overlapping map. Cates hadn't worked alone. He'd had helpers, a flock, apprentices, and one of them had learned very well. They brought Harris in again, this time with a warrant for his phone records. He declined to answer questions on legal advice. The warmth was gone. No gentle jokes, no soft eyes. Just a man sitting very still, hands folded, lips pressed tightly together. You knew Cates? Hale said quietly. Didn't you? Harris's jaw clenched, just once. He died a long time ago, the chaplain finally said. Whatever he did, he answered to God. This isn't about him anymore. Hale shot back. This is about the message I got. The photo you took. The verse that keeps showing up in rooms that should have forgotten it. Evil doesn't forget. Harris murmured. It lingers. It waits. Sometimes it signs in with a badge and a collar, Hale said. The chaplain lifted his gaze, and for a heartbeat, Hale saw it. Not guilt, not fear, but something close to pity. I didn't kill that girl. Harris whispered. But I was there when others did. The room seemed to tilt. Name them, Torres demanded. Who else was there? He shook his head. They're either dead or hidden, and if you start digging, you won't like what you find. This didn't start in Florida, Lieutenant. It started long before. Different states, different names, same water. Hale leaned forward. Then why the text? Why now? Why poke a dead case? Because it's not dead, Harris said. None of them are. Not really. You opened something when you dug up that Bible. When you played that tape. There are people who want this to stay buried, and there are others. He paused. Who want to finish what was started. That night, the Gulf Coast was hammered by a sudden storm. Sheets of rain slammed the streets, lightning sketching jagged scars across the sky. Hale drove home slow, wipers thrashing, water pooling on the asphalt like ink. His house was dark when he pulled up. No lights, no TV flicker, just the soft glow of the porch bulb, left on by habit. He unlocked the door and stepped inside. The smell hit him first. Damp, sharp, metallic. Not quite blood, not quite mold. Something in between. He followed it down the hallway, past the framed commendations, past the faded case photos tacked to his wall. It led to the bathroom, door slightly ajar. Inside, the sink was full. Water to the brim, motionless, reflecting the yellow ceiling light. Floating in the center, like a tiny boat, was a motel key, rusted, pitted, the number barely visible under the tarnish. He didn't touch it. He stepped back, heart pounding, eyes sweeping the room. No broken windows, no forced entry. All locks intact. Whoever did this had a key, or knew how to bypass everything he trusted. His phone buzzed. Another unknown number. Another message. This time, just 3 words. Do you feel it? He stared at the key, at the water, at his own reflection trembling on the surface. Because he did feel it. The case, the weight, the years. And under all of that, something else. The sense that the boundary between then and now was dissolving, like a sandbar under a rising tide. He pulled the plug, watched the water spiral away, dragging the key with it. For a second, it caught in the drain, metal scraping porcelain, then vanished. Gone. As if it had never been there. The next morning, before he could report what happened, the news broke. A body washed ashore on a quiet stretch of beach an hour south of Clearwater. Young, female, no ID, no jewelry, no wallet, just bruises, a torn dress, and a Bible verse written in blue ink on her forearm. John 13:27. The water wasn't done yet. The new body lay where the tide had left it, curled slightly on its side, as if trying to sleep through the storm. Dawn had barely touched the horizon, the sky a bruised purple over the gulf when the first officer stepped under the tape. Wind tugged at his jacket. Gulls screamed above, circling, impatient. This wasn't Clearwater. This was Indian Rocks Beach, 40 miles down the coast, quieter, older, lined with pastel condos and sleepy vacation rentals. A place for retirees, snowbirds, families with coolers and umbrellas. Not for this. The woman was young, mid-20s, maybe a bit older. Hair tangled with sand, dark and wet. Clothes clung to her frame, a simple sundress, blue turned almost black from seawater. Bare feet, no purse in sight, no shoes. The first thing they saw were the bruises, neck, arms, ribs, faint but deliberate. Fingers had been there, hands had pressed, held, pushed. The second thing they saw was the writing. On her left forearm, from elbow to wrist, words were scrawled in blue ink. The letters had bled slightly under the water, but were still legible, still sharp enough to sting. John. The officer called it in. The dispatcher, half asleep, logged it as a suspected drowning. Then the name came over the radio. Possible connection to the Lena Johnson cold case. Notify Major Crimes. Notify Lieutenant Torres. And somebody get Hale on the line. By the time Hale arrived, the sun was up. The beach was a patchwork of uniforms, cameras, yellow tape fluttering like warning flags. Reporters had already begun to cluster just beyond the perimeter, drawn here by instinct, rumor, the scent of fresh tragedy. Torres met him halfway down the sand, her boots leaving deep tracks. "You picked a hell of a day to stay retired," she said. "Yeah," Hale answered, eyes fixed on the body. "Funny how the dead don't care about my paperwork." He stepped closer. The medical examiner was kneeling beside the victim, gloved hands hovering just above skin like he was afraid of waking her. "Female," the ME said without looking up. "Approx 28. Time of death. Hard to say, but within the last 12 hours, lividity suggests she was in the water a while before washing up. No obvious bullet wounds, no stab marks, bruising around the neck and upper arms. Drowned?" Hale asked. "Most likely," the ME said, "but I'll know more once I open her up." Hale crouched, knees popping. Up close, the verse on her arm was even more chilling. The ink was fresh, bright where it hadn't bled. Not a tattoo, not a drunken pen scribble. This had been written carefully, intentionally. "Check if the ink got under the epidermis," Hale murmured. "If it's smudged in the pores, it was written before she went in the water. If it's just on top, then someone marked her after she was dead," the ME finished. "Yeah, I know the drill." Hale's gaze moved to her face. Her eyes were closed, lashes clumped with salt, lips slightly parted. There was a softness there, a trace of something that hadn't been fear. Not at the end. Maybe acceptance, maybe resignation. He hated that thought. Got an ID? He asked. Torres nodded toward a nearby officer holding a clear evidence bag with a phone inside. She had this in her dress pocket. No case, no lock code, like she wanted someone to find it. They opened it under a tent, away from prying lenses. A few taps and swipes, and the lock screen gave way to a home screen full of icons and notifications. At the top, a name. Erin Walsh. Recent missed calls. Voicemail from a number labeled Mom. Notifications from an audio app. Hale squinted. A podcast platform. The banner at the top showed her face, alive, bright, intense, and the title of her show. Beneath the Surface, Cold Case Podcast. Of course, Hale muttered. Torres scrolled through Erin's recent episodes. Creaking headphone audio, cover art with dark water and white letters. 2 weeks ago. Episode 19, The Redemption Killer, Florida's Forgotten Drownings. Erin had been telling their story before she became part of it. They pulled her subscriber bio. 29, freelance journalist, based in Tampa. Focus on unsolved crimes, institutional failures, and religious abuse. A neat resume of all the things that made enemies. Check her recent uploads. Hale said. Any mention of Kate's? Sea of Mercy? Lena? Torres hit play on this latest episode, posted just 3 days earlier. Erin's voice filled the tent. Clean, confident, the sort of tone that knew how to grip an audience. They called him a shepherd, she was saying. But everywhere he went, girls disappeared. Not all at once, not enough to make headlines. Just one here, one there, from Miami to Pensacola, from motel rooms to beaches. And every time, somewhere in the background, a verse about betrayal and possession appeared. John 13:27. After the morsel, Satan entered into him. The audio cut to an interview clip. A man's voice, distorted, identity hidden. I was there when one of them went under, the man said. Not close, not touching her, but watching. He said it was a baptism, said she'd come up clean. She didn't come up at all. Who was he? Erin's voice asked. Silence. Then, I can't say, but he wore the collar. And he said the water would keep the secret. Torres paused the playback. She was circling him, she said quietly. Circling the same man we've got in interview 2. Harris, pull her messages. Hale said. Texts, emails, DMs. See who she talked to right before she died. A tech set to work, fingers flying over the phone. After a few minutes, he pointed to a thread highlighted in grey. Here, he said. Last contact. Yesterday, 7:42 p.m. unknown number. They opened it. Unknown. I heard your podcast. You're close, but you're missing the real story. Erin. Who is this? Unknown. Someone who was there. Someone he tried to drown. Erin. He who? Kate's? Harris? Unknown. Neither. The one who taught them. Erin. Where can we meet? Unknown. Indian Rocks Beach, midnight. Come alone. Bring a recorder if you want. The truth deserves to be heard. That was the last message. No reply. No, on my way. No, who are you really? She had gone. Alone, with a phone and a microphone, chasing a confession. Hale looked at the timestamp. 7:42 p.m. Thunderstorm rolling in by 9. Erin walking onto a dark, empty beach to meet a ghost. He straightened. Get a warrant for that number, he said. Find out where it came from, where it went, and who paid for it. They did. By afternoon, the trail led to a prepaid phone purchased 2 weeks earlier at a gas station in Largo. Cash. No surveillance cameras working that day. No face, no car. A blank hole in the middle of Florida. But the number had pinged off a tower near one location hours before the meeting. A hospice facility in Sarasota. The same hospice where Michael Langford had recorded his tape. The same hospice that had mailed it. Hale stared at the printout of the tower logs, his pulse drumming in his ears. None of this made sense. Langford was dead. Kate's was dead. But their shadow kept stretching across new ground, pulling in new victims. Maybe it wasn't a who anymore. Maybe it was a what. Detectives canvassed Indian Rocks Beach, going door to door, knocking until knuckles ached. Eventually a witness surfaced, an older woman who walked her dog at odd hours, insomnia her only alibi against loneliness. "I saw her," the woman said, hands trembling as she wrapped her robe tighter. "Your girl, the one from TV just now. She was down by the water with a man." "Describe him," Hale said. "Coal, dark coat, hat." Couldn't see his face. They were standing close, talking. The wind was bad. I didn't want to get in the middle of some lover's argument, so I turned back. When I looked again, her voice faltered. He was alone. Alone how? He was just standing there, looking at the water, like he was praying. Then he walked away. "Which direction?" She pointed toward the road. "Toward the lot. I think he got into a car. A grey sedan. Maybe a Chevy. I'm not good with models." Hale followed that direction in his mind. Road, lot, cameras at the nearest intersection, traffic lights recording every plate, every make, every model. Technology that didn't exist in 1987 now watching everything. They pulled footage, hours of it, the digital flood pouring across screens. And there, at 12:21 a.m., a grainy image captured a man in a dark coat and hat crossing the lot. Face downturned, hands in pockets. He moved with purpose, but not hurry. He had time. He had confidence. He had done this before. He walked to a grey sedan. 4-door. Older model. No visible plate from that angle. Before he got in, he turned his head slightly, just enough for the light to catch his profile. Hale froze the frame, zoomed, enhanced. The jawline was familiar. The nose, the curve of the ear. It looked like Harris. It also looked like a dozen other men his age. Pastors, businessmen, teachers, anyone. The problem with evil, Hale thought, was that it often wore the most ordinary face in the room. They brought Harris back, this time in cuffs, this time with no polite pretense. "You said you didn't kill her," Torres snapped, dropping a photo of Erin's body on the table between them. "You said you were just a witness once. So tell me, Chaplain, what were you witnessing last night?" He stared at the photo for a long time, then he closed his eyes. "I was at the hospital," he said quietly. "I have 3 nurses who saw me, a night shift supervisor, a dying man who needed someone, anyone, to hold his hand. You can check the logs, check the cameras. I signed in." They did. He was telling the truth. Harris had been at St. Augustine Medical Center from 10:30 p.m. to 2 a.m., signed in, badged, recorded on multiple cameras in different wings. The timestamp on the Indian Rocks beach footage didn't lie. Neither did the hospital's. He couldn't be in 2 places at once. "Maybe it's not him," Torres muttered, frustration bleeding into her voice. "Maybe it's just someone who looks like him. Or maybe he's got a twin he forgot to mention." Hale didn't respond, because in his gut he knew this wasn't about one man anymore. Someone was copying the pattern. Someone who knew the story, the verse, the motel, the Bible. Someone who listened to Erin's podcast and decided to write their own ending. Forensics finished with Erin that evening. Lungs full of seawater, no drugs in her system, no alcohol. She'd gone in clear-headed. There were marks on her wrists, faint, like Lena's from something soft binding them briefly before release. Her fingernails were clean, no skin under them. She hadn't fought. She'd trusted. In the quiet of the morgue, under the cold white lights, Hale stood beside her and tried to imagine those last moments. The wind at her back, the waves around her knees, a voice in the dark promising her the truth, promising an exclusive, promising a story that no one else had. He pictured a hand extended, a smile, maybe even a prayer. Then the push, then the water. Torres joined him, her arms folded tight over her chest. "Her recorder was found 30 yards up the beach," she said. "Waves dragged it. The file's damaged, but audio techs think they can salvage parts of it." "Get me every second," Hale said. "Every breath, every wave." He looked down at Erin's face one last time. The confession that rewrote history. He whispered, remembering the headline that had started all of this. Michael Langford's deathbed tape that turned a closed case into a doorway. Except now, It wasn't just history being rewritten. It was the present, the rules, the boundary between victims and investigators. Somewhere out there, someone had decided the water still had work to do. The audio file was broken, jagged, like a body pulled from the surf in pieces. Salt, sand, impact, time. They'd all taken bites out of Erin's last recording. But the digital forensics team patched what they could, stitching fragments into something that resembled a final conversation. They played it in a small lab, lights dimmed, speakers humming. Hale sat forward in his chair, elbows on knees, eyes locked on the waveform pulsing across the screen. Torres stood at the back, arms folded, jaw tight. The first sound was wind, a low, constant rush, punctuated by the crash of distant waves, footsteps on sand, the soft rustle of fabric. Erin's voice came through, a little breathless, a little excited. "This is Erin Walsh," she said, the professional intro slipping out by reflex. "It's 11:57 p.m., Indian Rocks Beach. I'm here to meet an anonymous source who says they were there when one of the Redemption drownings took place. If this reaches anyone, and I don't, then—" Static ripped through the sentence, a hole in the middle, a chewed-out gap of silence. Then a new sound, a man clearing his throat. "Close. Too close. You shouldn't say things like that," he said, voice low, distorted by the cheap mic and the wind. "About not making it. Words have a way of back on true when they're spoken over water." The tech froze the playback. "Voice masking," he said. "Cheap but effective. He's using some kind of filter, maybe through his phone. Hard to get a clean print off it." "Let it run," Hale said. The audio resumed. Erin's voice again. Braver than it had any right to be. "Who are you?" A chuckle. Soft, controlled. "Call me a survivor," the man said. "I went under once. I've been holding my breath for 30 years. "Were you part of Sea of Mercy?" Erin asked, going straight for the throat. "Did you know Pastor Cates? Daniel Harris?" The waves grew louder, the wind pushing against the mic. For a moment, his answer was swallowed by noise. When it cleared, his words slid through like a knife. "I knew all of them," he said. "I knew the man who taught them to use the water. I knew the one who liked to watch. I knew the one who pretended not to understand what he was seeing. And I knew the one who ran away and left a girl to die." Hale didn't blink. Langford, Harris, Cates, different roles, same tide. "Why now?" Erin asked. "Why come forward after all this time?" A pause, a long inhale. "Because they woke it up," he said. "You all did. When you started digging. When you pulled that girl out of the archives and gave her back her name. When you played the tape of the coward. When you walked into the motel and opened that drawer." Hale felt his spine stiffen. He remembered the motel room, the Bible on the nightstand, the eerie chill in the air. "How do you know about that?" Erin asked. Another chuckle, no humor in it this time. "You're not the only one who listens," the man said. "You're not the only one who records. The dead don't stay quiet just because we put them in numbered boxes." Torres shifted at the back of the room. "He's either poetic or unhinged," she muttered under her breath. On the recording, Erin pressed him. "If you want this story out, you have to give me something real. Names, dates, proof." "I'll give you something better," he said. "I'll give you the pattern. That's what you're good at, isn't it? Patterns. Stories. Headlines." The wind flared again. Then his voice dropped lower, closer, like he'd stepped nearer to her. "Picture this," he said. "A man with a collar. A man with a Bible. A man who says the water cleanses what the blood can't. He's there in 87. He's there in 88. He's there in every town where the waves can take a body away." "Cates," Erin said. "Picture this," he continued, ignoring the interruption. "A young pastor watching him, learning, taking notes, learning which sins are too heavy to float." "Harris," she said. "Picture this," he whispered. A third one. Not on the stage, not in the tent. He's the one who counts the money, the one who drives the van, The one who locks the motel room from the inside and takes the back stairwell so nobody sees him leave. He doesn't wear the collar. He doesn't quote the verses. He just makes sure the water is deep enough. The room fell very still. Hale's mind flashed back to the old motel reports. An employee back then who'd worked at the Gulf Breeze Inn for 15 years. Handled bookings, keys, security. Someone who'd been interviewed once, briefly, then dismissed as irrelevant. He couldn't remember the name. That bothered him. On the recording, Erin pushed harder. "Who is he? Is he still alive?" "Oh, yes," the man said. "Very much alive. Men like that don't die. They just change uniforms, change badges, change the names on their doors. But they keep the keys. They always keep the keys." A shout of wind, a crash of foam. "You're not answering the question," Erin insisted. "If you want your story told, you have to—" The audio glitched. A sharp, digital tear. When it returned, their voices were farther apart, echoing slightly, as if they'd moved closer to the water. "Why did you agree to meet me?" she asked. "If you're just going to talk in circles." "I came to give you a choice," he replied. "You and the old detective, and the chaplain who thinks he can still bargain with his conscience." Something in his tone made Hale's skin crawl. "What choice?" Erin demanded. "You can keep going," he said. "Keep poking at this until it spills over. Until every old sermon, every old camp, every old drowning shows up on someone's screen with ads running in between. You can turn it into content. Or," silence stretched, "or you can let the dead sleep." He finished quietly. "You can let the water hold what it's been holding since before you were born." "That's not a choice," Erin snapped. "That's a threat." "Truth always is," he said. "You of all people should know that." Another glitch. Another jump. Footsteps splashing now. Water at ankle height. Erin's breathing had changed. Sharper, closer to the mic. "If you were there," she said, her voice tight, "if someone tried to drown you, why didn't you go to the police?" "Because one of them was there too," he replied. "Listening, watching, pretending he couldn't stop it. Do you really think this is just about preachers?" Hale felt the air leave his lungs. One of them. An officer, a deputy, a trooper, someone in uniform, standing at the edge of the ritual and choosing to look away. "Who?" Erin asked. Static rose again. The tech cursed softly, fingers dancing over the controls, trying to clean the interference. The man's answer came through shredded, broken, only fragments surviving. Was a deputy back then. Said it wasn't his jurisdiction. He's the one bringing the Bible back now. He liked to say the sea kept secrets. The last phrase hit like a hammer. Hale heard his own voice from 34 years ago, young, certain, standing over Lena's body on the sand. He'd said those exact words to a rookie, trying to sound like he'd seen it all before. They said the sea keeps secrets. He remembered. He wished he didn't. On the recording, Erin tried one last time. "Tell me his name." This time, there was no glitch, no wind, no gap. Just the man's answer, clear and sobering. "I just did," he said. "You already know it." Then the tone changed. The footfalls stopped. The water sounds shifted. Deeper, higher. The waves embraced them. "Walk a little farther," he murmured. "You'll hear them better out there. All the girls, all their last breaths. You want their story, don't you?" There was a scrape as if the mic brushed against clothing. Erin's voice, smaller now. "I'm fine here." "The tide is coming in," he said patiently. "You can't tell a story about the sea from the safety of the shore." Another few steps, water sloshing against thighs, the wind harder, harsher, Erin's breathing louder in the mic. "Do you remember the verse?" he asked. "John 13:27. She replied. "You said it in the message. After the morsel, Satan entered into him. It's about consent." He cut in. "About letting something in. About agreeing to be used. That's what the preacher taught us." That's what he whispered when he put his hand on the back of her neck. The audio warped. The tech tried to correct it, but the last moments came through like a nightmare half-remembered. The man's voice dropped to a murmur, close enough that the mic crackled. "Do you consent, Erin?" he whispered. "Do you agree to go where they went? To feel what they felt?" "No," she said, sharp, firm. Too late, he replied. You already walked into the water. Then the recording became chaos. A splash. A gasp, a muffled shout, the mic going under, sound compressing into a dull, roaring hiss. Bubbles. A frantic, gurgling breath, fingers slapping against plastic, the ocean punching the microphone over and over. For 30 seconds it was just struggle, strain, the raw sound of a life being crushed under salt and weight. Then, abruptly, everything went quiet. The waves remained. The wind remained. But Erin's breathing was gone. At the very end of the file, after nearly a minute of empty surf and static, a voice surfaced again. Same man, same filter, same unhurried calm. Do you feel it? He asked. Then a click. The file ended. No splash of departure. No footsteps retreating. Just that question hanging over the emptiness. In the lab, no one spoke for a long time. Even the tech's fingers stayed still. The waveform on the screen froze in a jagged plateau of silence. Torres broke it first. We run his voice, she said hoarsely. Every filter, every database, every archived sermon and patrol car tape. I don't care what division, what year, what county. We match it to someone. Hale stayed seated. The question echoed in his head, bouncing off old memories, old failures. You already know his name. The sea keeps secrets. Do you feel it? He thought of the motel key circling the sink, the Bible that should have been dust, the way the verse kept reappearing like a stain that wouldn't wash out. He thought of Harris, too calm, of Cates, long dead, of Langford, choking out his half-confession in a hospice bed. But most of all, he thought about 1987, about how many officers had been seen on that beach, how many had rotated through that part of the state, how many had retired with commendations and plaques and quiet homes by the water. Dig up the old rosters, he said finally, voice low. Every deputy, every trooper, every rent-a-cop who was anywhere near Clearwater, Indian Rocks, Tampa, Fort Myers, Pensacola between 85 and 90. Cross them with Harris, with Cates, with Sea of Mercy. He rose, joints protesting. And while you're at it, he added, find me the one who liked to say, the sea kept secrets. I want to know how many people heard him before I did. That night, as the Gulf rolled in and out under a pale, indifferent moon, boxes that hadn't been touched in decades were dragged from storage shelves. Old rosters, old duty logs, old photos of young men in crisp shirts and fresh badges, smiling at cameras they thought would capture only their best days. Somewhere in those stacks, in those faded ink lines and ghostly Polaroids, was a face that matched the voice on the tape. A man who had watched a drowning and done nothing. A man who might now be doing much, much more. Somewhere the water was waiting for him. The boxes came down like coffins. Thick cardboard, yellowed tape, dust that smelled like old paper and older lies. Quartermaster's storage, third floor, back room, the place where forgotten rosters went to rot. Names, badges, beats, entire careers collapsed into columns and ink. They cleared a table and began to stack them. Year by year, county by county, Clearwater, Pinellas, Hillsborough, Pasco. 4 counties of Gulf Coast law enforcement, 1985 to 1990. Torres supervised the interns and analysts, eyes sharp, voice clipped. Start with 87, she said. Nights, any deputy or patrol officer assigned within 10 miles of Clearwater Beach or Indian Rocks. Cross-check against any known religious affiliations, hospital transfers, chaplaincy connections, off-duty security jobs. If they ever stood near a Bible and a paycheck at the same time, I want their file. It sounded impossible. It felt necessary. Hale sat at the far end of the table, old coffee cooling by his elbow, reading names that used to mean nothing. Some still didn't, but some flickered, turned, shifted in the back of his mind like silhouettes he'd seen once in a storm. He found his own name more than once. Patrol assignments, night shifts, beach disturbances, disturbance unknown resolved, no further action. He hated seeing it in writing. The one who said the sea kept secrets, he muttered under his breath. Could have been any of us. Could have been you. Torres said quietly. Not accusing, just stating what both of them knew. But you weren't at a ritual. You were at a recovery. You sure? He said. She met his gaze. If you had watched that girl drown and walked away, you wouldn't be here now. You'd be on a boat, or in a bottle, or under the ground. He didn't answer. He just went back to the names. 2 days in, an analyst called out, "Got a hit." They all looked up at once. The analyst, a young guy with red-rimmed eyes and a stack of highlighted printouts, held up a personnel record. Deputy Owen Klein, Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. Assigned Coastal Patrol in 86, 87, 88. On duty the night Lena's body washed up. Hale frowned. So were half the county. Yeah, but he's more than that, the analyst said, pushing another paper forward. Off duty, he worked private security for events. Concerts, fairs, religious gatherings. Sea of Mercy Fellowship contracted him 3 times in 86 and 87. Revivals in Clearwater, Tampa, and Fort Myers. On the contract, typed neatly between dates and hourly rates, Security Liaison, O. Klein. Here, Torres added, sliding forward a brittle photocopy of an old incident report. Disturbance call, March 87. Location, Gulf Breeze Inn. Complaint, yelling inside room, possible domestic. Responding officer, Deputy Klein. Final disposition, gone on arrival, no further action. The room went quiet. Room number 215. 2 doors down from 217. Same week Lena checked in. Same week Langford's alias appeared in the log. Does his name show up anywhere near the drownings Cates was linked to? Hale asked. The analyst nodded, swallowing. Pensacola, 88. Off-duty shift at a beachfront revival. Girl goes missing same night. Case unsolved. Klein's time card shows overtime logged. Hale felt something slide into place. Not a full click, not a lock, but the pressure of tumblers beginning to move. Where is he now? Retired, the analyst said. Left the force in 2009. Lives in a manufactured home park near Palm Harbor. Listed phone disconnected. Neighbors say he keeps to himself. Of course he does, Hale thought. They didn't send a SWAT team. They didn't kick the door. They drove out in an unmarked sedan. Hale and Torres in the front, a quiet senior detective in the back. Midday sun blasted the hood. Trailer park asphalt shimmered like water. Klein's place was easy to spot, not because it was different, but because it wasn't. Same beige siding, same faded lawn ornaments, same sagging porch, nothing to remember, nothing to attract attention. Torres knocked, a long pause, then the sound of locks, 2 deadbolts, a chain. The door opened 3 inches on a security bar. The man behind it was thinner than his file photo. Age had carved him down. His hair was white, buzzed short. His eyes were pale, the color of shallow surf. Oxygen tubing curled from his nose to a tank nearby, hissing softly. Whatever you're selling, I don't want it, he said. We're not selling, Torres replied. We're from the sheriff's office. Wrong county, he muttered. We're talking about the state, Hale said, stepping forward into the thin strip of shadow. We're here about 1987. That made him blink. Just once. A ripple across stagnant water. You're late, Klein said. Then he slid the bar aside and opened the door. Inside, the living room was small and cluttered. Recliner. TV on low with the sound muted. Stacks of newspapers. No crosses, no Bibles. No signs of faith anywhere. Just the blue glow of the screen and the constant whisper of the oxygen tank. Sit, don't sit, I don't care, Klein said, easing himself back into the recliner with a soft grunt. You want water? I don't keep coffee. We're fine, Torres said. Hale remained standing. He could feel it in the room, the residue of someone who'd spent years learning to control what people saw. You were on scene when a Jane Doe washed up on Clearwater Beach, Hale said. September 87. You wrote a disturbance report at the Gulf Breeze Inn that same week. You worked security for Sea of Mercy. That what the paper says? Klein replied. That's what your own signature says, Hale shot back. Klein let out a thin, dry laugh. You want to know something about signatures, detective? They're the easiest thing to put where you want them. A sergeant hands you a form and says, "Sign here. We'll fill the rest." You sign. That's the job. You think anybody down there in those days was writing their own destiny? Hale stepped closer. Did you stand on a beach and watch a girl drown? Klein's eyes lifted to his. For a moment, they were young again. Sharp. He studied Hale's face like a crime scene. You were there too, he said. Back then, weren't you? I dragged her out of the tide, Hale answered. You know that. I know you showed up after the show. Klein said. After the curtain closed? After somebody decided the water deserved a sacrifice. He reached for the remote, turned the TV off. The room grew quieter, the hiss of oxygen suddenly louder. Look, he sighed. You're not the first to come asking, and you won't be the last. Journalists, podcasters, some girl with a microphone came around 2 months ago. Same questions, same fire in her eyes. Tell me about the preacher. Tell me about the girls. Erin Walsh, Torres said. Didn't ask her name, Klein replied. Names don't matter in the end, just the weight. Did you talk to her? I told her to stop swimming in water she couldn't see the bottom of, he said. Told her every town's got its own tide, the pull under the surface, and that if she kept messing with it, something would drag her under. She didn't listen. He looked past them, out the small window where sunlight bounced off parked cars. None of you ever listen. Hale stepped between him and the view. Did you meet her again? At Indian Rocks. Klein's gaze slid back. Slow. You think I can walk across sand at midnight with these lungs? He asked, tapping his chest. I get winded going to the mailbox. No, detective. I didn't meet her. I just knew she would go where the story called her. People like that always do. You worked security for Sea of Mercy, Hale said, refusing to let him drift. You saw Cates, you saw Harris, you saw what they did near the water. I saw a lot of men wave Bibles around, Klein said. Some believed their own words, some didn't. Some collected donations like they were bailing out a sinking ship. You want me to say I saw them hold people under? Did you? He took a breath. It rattled. I saw people go into the water scared and come out quiet, he said. I saw girls with bruises on their arms and hope in their eyes. I saw them disappear the next day and get written off as runaways. I saw pastors saying it was out of their hands, and deputies saying it wasn't their jurisdiction. And you? Hale asked. What did you say? Klein's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, not quite a grimace. I said the sea keeps secrets, he replied. It made everybody feel better. Gave them something poetic to write in their reports, including you. The words hit like cold spray. He remembered now. Clearer, younger. Standing near the tide line. Klein beside him, arms folded, chewing gum. Saying it first, half joking, half tired. They say the sea keeps secrets, kid, and Hale had repeated it later, trying to sound wise. You were there before me, Hale said slowly. On that beach, before I got the call, before the body was found. Klein said nothing. Did you see her struggle? Hale pressed. Did you hear her scream? His eyes closed for a long moment. When he opened them, there was a wetness that wasn't from age. I heard a preacher, he whispered. Heard him say, let her sins sink. Heard her choke. Heard the water take her name. I was on the bluff, 50 yards away, watching through binoculars like it was some damn training exercise. I radioed it in. You know what I got? He mimicked a flat, bureaucratic voice. Unit engaged in non-criminal religious activity. Unless you see a weapon, maintain distance. Who said that? Torres asked sharply. He shook his head. Doesn't matter now. He's dead. Heart attack. Nice funeral. Full honors. It matters, Hale snapped. You gonna dig him up and put him in cuffs? Klein shot back. You're gonna drag every ghost that stood on those dunes into court. Statute of limitations doesn't apply to corpses, detective. Silence. The oxygen hissed, insistent. You could have done something, Hale said quietly. Klein's jaw clenched. I was a deputy with 6 years on the line and a baby on the way, he said. They were men with collars and crowds and friends in Tallahassee. By the time I got down the hill, the water was empty and the shore was clean. You got there after me, wrote your notes, took your photos. Then they took the file out of your hands and put it in a cabinet for 30 years. His voice broke, just for a moment. But I saw, he whispered. I saw enough to hear it every time I closed my eyes. That's my crime. That's what I can't confess away. Hale studied him. The tremor in his fingers, the dark half-moons under his eyes, the way he kept glancing at the door like he expected someone else to walk in. Who else was there? Hale asked. Not just Cates, not just Harris, the money man, the driver, the one who made sure the water was deep enough. Klein stared at the floor. You think this was just some traveling circus of psychos? He said. You think it wasn't connected to anyone in uniform? Anyone in a suit? You think nobody local was getting their palms greased to stay blind? He looked up, and there it was, that same pity Hale had seen in Harris's eyes. You don't want that list, Klein said. It doesn't end where you think. It runs through your old station, your old commanders, the judge who signed your warrants, the guy who pinned your badge at your retirement ceremony. Names, Torres demanded. He shook his head again. I give you names. I'm the only one who's ever going to answer for it. And I've been answering for it every night for 30 years. You think this ends with your guilt? Hale said. Girls are still dying. Lena, Erin, whoever comes next. Somebody heard about what you all did and decided to keep it going, or finish it, or imitate it. That's on him, sure. But the pattern? That's on you, too. Klein's breathing grew rough. He reached for his oxygen dial, twisting it higher. The hiss intensified. Get out, he said hoarsely. I told you what you came for. You didn't, Hale said. But we will be back. They left without slamming the door. Slamming would have felt like letting him off too easy. Back in the car, Torres exhaled hard. He just admitted to watching a murder, she said. And the best we get is moral failure. He also just told us the rot went higher, Hale replied. We've been looking for one man with a Bible and a bad conscience. What if it's bigger? A whole web. Preachers drown. Deputies look away. Judges shrug. The sea keeps secrets because we help it. Her fingers tightened on the wheel. So what now? We pull personnel files on command staff from that era, he said. We map who signed off on what. We find any unexplained transfers, quiet retirements, sealed IA cases. We track every connection to Sea of Mercy and its shell charities. He paused. And we put Klein under a microscope. Phone records, visitor logs, bank statements. If he never left his recliner, fine. But if his oxygen tank took a trip to Sarasota or Indian Rocks in the last month, I want to know. That night, while analysts chased paper ghosts and Torres leaned on retired administrators who suddenly couldn't recall, Hale sat alone in his kitchen with the lights off. His phone buzzed once, unknown number. He knew before he looked. The message was brief. You found the deputy? Good. But you're still asking the wrong question. A second bubble appeared. Don't ask who watched. Ask who opened the door for them. Hale stared at the words until the screen dimmed. In his mind, he saw a door. Not to a motel room, not to a church hall, but to an evidence vault. To a squad room. To a promotion ceremony. Handshakes, smiles, keys changing hands. Someone had let all of this happen. Someone above the waterline, and somewhere along the Florida coast, under a sky that had watched all of it for decades, the waves kept rolling in, erasing footprints as fast as men could make them. The night never really ended, just folded into morning without permission. A grey, breathless kind of dawn, where every streetlight looked half asleep, and the Gulf was a flat sheet of metal, stretching toward nothing. Hale sat in his car outside headquarters, watching the building glow through the fog like a tooth under an X-ray. He'd been there all night, sifting through ghosts. Inside, Torres's team had pinned half a century of paper to the walls. Photos, reports, dotted lines connecting preachers to deputies to donors to disappearances. Red thread hung everywhere, sagging under the weight of too much truth. It looked less like an investigation and more like a warning. At 6:30 sharp, Torres strode in with a folder under her arm and dark crescents under her eyes. "You need to see this," she said. No greeting, no coffee. She dropped the folder on the table. Inside were photocopies of bank transfers from 1987, small sums spread across months, routed through a non-profit called Clearwater Youth Outreach, later renamed Sea of Mercy Foundation. Every deposit matched the same approval signature. Captain D. Harper. Harper. Hale said slowly. He was my commanding officer. Yeah, Torres replied. Promoted to assistant sheriff in '88, retired with honors in '23. Lives in Naples now, donates to half the churches in the state. You ever wonder why the Cates case got shut down before it started? Harper handled the initial interviews. He decided there wasn't enough to charge anyone. Hale stared at the paperwork. So the man who buried Lena's file was the same man who signed the checks that kept Sea of Mercy alive. And the same man who ordered Klein to maintain distance that night on the bluff. Torres added. She slid a printed transcript across the table. We pulled old radio logs. One of the techs cleaned up the tape hiss. The call's faint. But listen. She hit play. Static. Wind. Then Klein's voice, young, tight with panic. Dispatch, this is Unit 42. We've got a situation. Looks like a female struggling offshore, possibly. Another voice cut in. Calm. Authoritative. Unit 42. That location is hosting an approved religious event. Maintain observation only. Do not interfere unless a weapon is visible. Sir, she's... Copy your order, Unit 42. The line went dead. Torres stopped the recording. Voice print confirms it. Captain Harper. The room seemed to shrink. Hale leaned back, staring at the ceiling tiles, the fluorescent buzz gnawing at his nerves. 34 years, he whispered. 34 years, and he's been out there living in sunshine while these women rot in case files. Then let's change that, Torres said. We get him in. We confront him with this. He can't hide behind retirement. Hale shook his head. No warrants, no charges. He'll shut us down. He'll call in favors from every golf buddy who owes him a weekend. Then we go another way, she said. How? Torres looked at him, a slow, grim smile forming. You forget who you trained, old man. We've got reporters who owe us, podcasters who'd kill for a story. We drop a breadcrumb. Harper's name, tied to Sea of Mercy donations, leaked in the right place. Let the public drag him into the light. Hale hated leaks, but he hated ghosts more. Do it, he said. By noon, Florida Watch published an anonymous tip. Retired Pinellas Sheriff's Captain linked to 80s religious drownings. Investigation reopened. The comments section exploded. The networks followed within hours. Harper's name trended statewide by evening. At sunset, his lawyer called Torres's office. My client has no involvement with any so-called cult or drowning deaths, he said, voice clipped. He'll meet with you voluntarily tomorrow at 9 a.m. No recording devices, no media, off the record. Hale knew that tone. Confident, rehearsed, too calm for a man under siege. He's coming in because he thinks he can control the story, Hale said. We let him talk. We keep him talking. He'll slip. They prepared the conference room that night. Clean table, 2 cameras hidden in vents, microphones embedded in the light fixture. Torres wanted it surgical. Hale wanted it real. At 9:05 a.m., Harper walked in wearing a beige linen suit and a smile that didn't reach his eyes. His hair was silver now, his tan precise, his posture the same parade ground arrogance Hale remembered from decades ago. Detective, Harper greeted, extending a hand. Didn't think I'd see you still chasing waves. Hale didn't take it. You buried more than waves, Captain. Torres motioned for him to sit. We appreciate you coming in, sir. This is an informal chat. Good, Harper said. Because the rumors out there are ridiculous, linking me to that traveling circus of fanatics. Please, Torres slid a photo across the table. Sea of Mercy Revival, Clearwater, 1987. Kate's on stage, arms wide, halo of floodlights behind him. In the corner, blurred but clear enough, a uniformed officer leaning against a cruiser. Harper glanced at it once and smiled. "That's me? Yes. Department policy. We provided security at large gatherings. Public safety, nothing more. You also signed off on a $4,000 check to their foundation," Torres said. "Community outreach." Harper countered smoothly. "We supported youth programs, addiction recovery run by a preacher who drowned young women as baptisms." Harper laughed, the sound brittle. "You really think I would fund that? You're smarter than this, Maria. So is he." He nodded toward Hale. "Richard here knows how fast gossip grows in a small department. We were fighting drugs, not demons." Hale leaned forward. "Then why tell Klein to maintain distance? Why call it an approved religious event?" That cracked the veneer, just slightly. Harper's eyes flicked sideways. "You have that on record?" "Radio log, your voice print." He sat back slowly, composure bending but not breaking. "If that's true, I'd say it was protocol. You don't wade into a revival unless there's a crime in progress. The line between faith and hysteria gets blurry when people start shouting about salvation." "Was it blurry when she screamed?" Hale asked. "When the girl went under and didn't come back up?" Harper's jaw tightened. For a second his eyes lost their shine. "I wasn't there for that," he said. "I heard the call after. I told Klein to keep watch because I didn't want a deputy on the evening news tackling a pastor. We were already under review for excessive force. Politics, detective, not murder." "Politics buried her," Hale said. "No," Harper replied, calm again. "The tide did." Something in his tone, soft, final, made the room feel smaller. Hale recognized it. The same rhythm, the same deadly calm from the voices on the tape. "The tide did," he repeated. "That's a line straight out of Sea of Mercy sermons." Harper smiled faintly. "We all borrow phrases from somewhere." Torres pushed forward a second folder. Financials, donation lists, a photo of Harper shaking hands with Kate's at a charity dinner. "You were more than a donor," she said. "You were a sponsor." Harper opened the folder, glanced at the papers, then closed it again. "I sponsored order, Lieutenant. People needed hope back then. Maybe Kate's took it too far. But you want a villain. You need one. And if my name fills your headlines, that's fine. My conscience is clear." He stood. Hale stood too. "You walk out now. You'll make it worse." Harper smiled again. Thin, knowing. "I retired 20 years ago. What are you going to do? Arrest me for bad theology?" He left without looking back. The next day, the leak spread wider. Photos of Harper at Sea of Mercy events. Donor lists. Whispers of protection payments. The story snowballed. The department issued a statement calling it unverified. Harper called it character assassination. And then, just as suddenly, it stopped being public. At midnight, Torres's phone buzzed. A restricted number. She answered, half awake. "Lieutenant Torres," a clipped voice said. "You will cease all inquiries into retired personnel connected to the 1987 Clearwater investigation. You are to release no further documents. That's a direct order." "Who is this?" "Deputy Commissioner Miles. Internal review has deemed the matter sealed pending federal evaluation." "Federal?" she repeated. "Yes," the voice said. "Effective immediately." The line went dead. When she arrived at the office, the evidence board was gone. Boxes missing. Files signed out by Federal Liaison D. Miles. No one had seen him. Hale was waiting as the hallway, jaw tight. "They cleaned us out." Torres nodded. "Harper made one call." "Then we go around them," Hale said. "I still have copies." She blinked. "You what?" He tapped his chest pocket. "Photos. Notes. The radio log. You think I'd trust the system after what I've seen?" She almost smiled. "You're insane." "Maybe. But we've still got a thread, and I'm not letting them cut it." They decided to confront Harper one more time, unofficially. No warrants, no permission, just truth. That night, they drove to Naples. The streets were quiet, the kind of rich silence that only comes from money and old age. Harper's house sat at the end of a cul-de-sac, low lights glowing behind manicured hedges. No movement, no guards, no sound but crickets and the slow churn of sprinklers. They parked 2 houses down and walked. Hale's knees cracked. Torres kept her hand near her holster, just in case. The front door was ajar. Torres froze. "He's expecting us?" Hale shook his head. "Or someone else got here first." They stepped inside. The house was immaculate, except for the smell. Salt, damp, seaweed. It hit like a wave. The floor glistened faintly under the hallway light. Water pooled across the marble. In the center of the living room, beneath a chandelier, Harper sat upright in an armchair. Perfect posture, perfect suit, eyes open, mouth slightly parted as if mid-prayer. But he wasn't breathing. His skin was gray, slick with moisture. Drops of seawater clung to his hair. The carpet beneath him was soaked, a dark halo spreading outward, and on his lap lay a small Bible, open to John 13:27, the verse underlined. Hale whispered, "Christ." Torres knelt, checked for a pulse she knew wasn't there. "No forced entry," she said. No sign of struggle. He drowned sitting up. On the floor beside the chair was a glass of water, half full. Inside it floated a motel key. "Room 270. Torres looked up. "You think it's the same one?" Hale stared at the key, at the faint shimmer of salt crust along its edge. "No," he said quietly. "It's the one I watched go down the drain." The room was silent except for the soft tick of water dripping from Harper's fingertips to the carpet. Outside, somewhere beyond the hedges, the sprinklers hissed like surf, whispering the same refrain that had haunted Hale for decades. The sea keeps secrets, but now it was clear. The sea had started talking back. The coroner called it drowning of indeterminate origin. No water in the lungs, no ligature marks, no toxins. Harper's heart had stopped, but his body told a different story. The moisture in his airways matched ocean salinity, not tap. His clothes were soaked in seawater that shouldn't have been anywhere near Naples. There was no evidence of forced submersion, no bruises, no trauma. He had drowned without drowning. By dawn, federal agents swarmed the property. Unmarked sedans. Plain suits, efficient movements that smelled of jurisdictional takeover. Torres stood on the sidewalk, watching her own badge mean nothing. Hale stood beside her, coat open, face like stone. "You know what this looks like?" she said quietly. He nodded, like somebody decided the case didn't need a trial. "Or a witness," she added. Agents came and went, their eyes sliding past them like they were part of the scenery. A tall man in a black suit with a lanyard that simply read Federal Liaison, D. Miles, stepped forward, clipboard in hand. His voice was polite, detached, a bureaucrat's lullaby. "This incident falls under federal jurisdiction due to prior cross-agency involvement. All materials relating to your Clearwater investigation will be transferred to our custody. You'll be notified when relevant." Torres folded her arms. "With respect, we were handling this before you people even knew it existed." Miles smiled faintly, the kind of smile that said he'd already forgotten her name. "And now you're relieved. Congratulations, Lieutenant. Get some rest." He turned to Hale. "And you, Detective, enjoy retirement. Again." They left, agents trailing like shadows.